Are you not entertained by this? Ha. Well, guess what? I am. I don't know about you, but I'm entertained. This season's going so far, so unexpected. Unexpected, right? We got the Battle of the Gullet. We got that in the first episode. Let's go down keys members of the so far. Raina, Raina, uh, is in a big trouble. Hey, her and Sheep Stealer are looking for asylum, and they look for it in the Vale. And Lady Jane says, "Not here. You're not. You haven't been here. I don't know you. You were supposed to be on the voyage to Essos with Rhaenyra's other kids, and you're here. I don't know what you're doing here. So, you know." And in return, what she says is, "Hey, look, you wanted dragons. I'm offering you a dragon. You got a dragon back there, a live one, a big one, and and Lady Jane pretty much says, hey, you know what? I can't tell Dragon where it can be or where it cannot be, but we are not going to consider you. We we won't bother you. We won't bother you. Nothing's going to happen. Now that's kind of funny, right? Um, why is she seeking asylum if she didn't? Why don't she just go back to Dragonstone and say, "Hey, look, this happened. Um, uh, I don't recall her seeing Jace dying. But just saying, hey, look, this is a wild dragon, and we can't contain wild dragons, right? Nobody can control wild dragons. Nobody can tell a dragon what to do or where to go. So I don't see what's the big deal. Instead of her asking the lady in the veil, Lady Jane, and telling her, hey, why not just go back to Dragonstone and say, hey, look, I was able to ride this dragon, but it's uncontrollable, right? I mean, what was gonna happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, Bela, right? We're starting with the Belas first. Now Bela is trying to make amends with um, Ali, Lord Corley's bastard son, Ali's. While they're trying to look for Lord Corley's and the gullet. Right, what is she doing? Right, she's just trying to make amends, see how good of a person this individual is. That he's a good person, that he loved his wife, and and Ally doesn't want to see those one doesn't want to see that. Um, you know, um, he doesn't want to know anything of that. But at the same time, I tell you this here, um, you know, while Lord Corley is giving a lot of attention to 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 allies, um, Adam is the one that seemed to be more sympathetic with him and understanding with him and more forgiving to him. You know, um, so Lord Lord Corlys, right? We saw him fall in the water in the battle with Lohan. So he's discovered by um Sea Smoke and Adam, um, one of the dragon seeds rider. So he's found um, with the dragon. So um, the cool part about them is that they shared all four of them shared a piece, a scene, and an important um, important scene where it comes to be that he is going he gives um Alan his name, right? He gives him his name because you know what? He can't give him anything, you know. Other than Rhaenyra, Lord Corlys has lost everything. Everything. He lost his home, he's lost his ship, he's lost his wife, he's lost his two children. Um, so you know, he's losing a lot of L's on his on his column, right? So let's go to Damon, man. We go to Damon. Um, yeah, Damon's celebrating, right? Damon is kicking ass, cutting heads, and and as we see on we see in that scene, you know, he he has a lion on a spike. Um, but yeah, as much as good news comes, right? Just one bad news just dooms his day, right? Yeah, he's summoned to King's Landing from a message from uh, Simon Strong. He tells him, "Hey, look, you know, this is a message from the Queen. This is you gotta go to." You know, he reads the message. He's informed that Jace is gone, and he feels that as much as that's the stepfather and he knows what the situation that it is. He understands that, and he you see it in his personality that it struck him, not as hard, but it hits him. It hits him. He tells his army, his commanders, which we see there, Ali Blackwood, um, who was Rudy the Ruin, Oscar Tully. He gives them command that they're going to see each other and to start marching to King's Landing because he's going for King's Landing. He's been summoned to go to King's Landing. So as he's going to King's Landing, he got to stop by Dragonstone to obviously see Rhaenyra, right? And before he goes and see Rhaenyra, right, he sees um, Hugh, and Ulf, the two dragon seeds, two out of the three dragon seeds, just being there in Dragonstone, and he's questioning why they're there. They were sent to, they were given orders why they're not waiting for Vagar to show up, right? For Aemon to show up with Vagar so that they can battle two or three dragons against one big dragon. How would that battle be? How would three against one be? Right. This is a huge dr- dragon, a slow dragon as well. So, um, you know, so as Demon's upset with them not paying um following directions, following orders, right? He slaps he slaps Oath, you know, and tell them that they cost them. It was a mistake for them to leave, to have left, right? And you know, walks over, continues to walk, and encounters the master of whispers, right? So they're kind of, Damon and her are trying to understand what's the role of one another. Who has the confidence of Rhaenyra. They don't, I mean, they're just they're fighting one another. So let's see what happens there. They're measuring each other, seeing who has the love and what's the common folks. Now, When Damon shows up with Rhaenyra, instead of trying to understand her grief, and he's just telling her, hey, look, I've seen the dreams. I've seen the dreams of Aegon, the Conqueror, right? What he's been talking about. I've seen it. I've seen those dreams, and the dreams is you, and Rhaenyra's all sad, because she's lost her two sons, and she goes, he tells her, hey, look, don't let them die in vain. Let's go get that Iron Throne. Cheers her up, right? She gets up. But I don't want to get to Rhaenyra right now. There was, let me go a little bit back, because Damon had a, before he flew to Dragonstone, he was able to meet with um, uh, Alison the River, right? The witch, and she basically tells him what she wants, right? She tells him, "Hey, I want Harrenhal, right? Nobody wants it. I've seen people go from one, I've seen it go from one person to another, and this is something I would want to have." And he's like, like, yo, that's pretty much like some common person asking me to, with no name, with no noble husband, nothing, no knights. You want me to give you land? You want me to give you Harrenhal? Uh, no, And I mean, I like her response. Her response is so cool, because she's like, I'm ask, it's like if I'm asking for food, but you're giving me rubies, right? Like, what good is rubies do if you can't buy food, right? But yeah, so her thing is that she helped out for the cause, so that she maybe can get Harrenhal, right? And is she gonna get Harrenhal? I mean, who's gonna get Harrenhal? Because we're gonna see that. Well, I'll talk to him about you now. As Simon Strong went to give the message to 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 Damon, right? He's Simon is back at Harrenhal, and who shows up, right? Aemon shows up, right? Aemon shows up, and he wants to take over Harrenhal, right? And he's flashing, he fires whatever encampment um Daemon left there to guard the castle. You know, burn people outside of the castle as much as burn people inside of the castle. Soldiers inside the castle. Once he got on foot in the castle, he's slashing and bashing and killing all these guys. And um, you could have thought this is Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, right? Where he gets off the elevator and just starts fighting with everybody, and nobody's gonna touch him. He's he obviously is to show off his fighting skills and he shows pretty good fighting skills on it. Until he gets to Simon Strong, and when he gets to where he's eating like Damon did in season two last season. Okay. Um, as obviously the servants they run away from it. Like you see both scenes together, and you see them. The servants, like as soon as that door opens, the dudes with a sword in hand. Uh, those servants are running back to the kitchen. They don't want no part of it. They don't want to witness nothing. Um, but yeah, Strong didn't expect Aemon to show up, and to his surprise, he's Amen wants him to battle him, and he's like, hey man, like I haven't held the sword never, that's like, hey, that's like if you give, what is it, the Onion Knight, in Game of Thrones. If you give him a sword, he doesn't know how to use one, and as he's using it, uh, you know, uh, he gives him a dagger, and Simon Strong doesn't know how to use it, and you know, um, Damon goes ahead. Excuse me, Aemon goes ahead and you know and, and punctures him. His two sons are there. They fight. They give a little contest to Aemon, the great Aemon, and one of them is able to stab him in the back, but he seemed unbothered by it. He doesn't seem concerned of it. Um, so as he doesn't seem concerned of it, he goes in. He kills the two sons of the strong. So we got only got one strong and living. Simon, I can't say because he was just panning at the moment, but um, you know, um, until we don't, kind of this issue, if we don't see a body, then we don't know if it's alive or dead. And Alice Rivers is there and observes it. And then as he looks at her, he sees that he's in pain, and and asks for help from her. So let's see what that's gonna happen. Might she want ask him the same thing, and might she ask him, Amen, that she wants Harrenhal, right? She couldn't get it with the blacks, and now she's gonna go with the greens and say, hey, can I, if I help you out, would you give me Harrenhal? Let's see what goes in there. Man, let's see. Well, like I mentioned, the Winter Wolves and Roddy the Ruin was with Eamon when he got the message of the news of Jace. Um, we get a brief shot of what's going on with Kristen Cole and his host. They're just there in the woods, and they see Aemon flying Vagar to Harrenhal, and that's where he's expected to go. So he's gonna meet with Harrenhal. He's gonna meet with um, Aemon in Harrenhal. Um, or they meet there. Or he ever gets to his destination. These are questions these are two questions that I have. One, when Damon tells them to go to King's Landing, will they actually meet there? And does Kristen Cole actually meet um uh reach his destination in Harrenhal? Allison, the the Queen Mother of the region, she's using people's name, right? She's using people's name. She already used Aemon's name, and telling the High Towers to stay put where they are for a couple of days. And now in this episode, she used Helena's name, and telling the commander of the Gold Cloaks, that she has information that Rhaenyra is coming back, and and that there was a peace treaty pretty much done between Helena and Rhaenyra. So you know, is that treason? What's gonna happen? And treason to who? I mean, does it benefit the blacks, or is it gonna benefit the greens? Because there's gonna be soldiers that's not gonna be died, so they're gonna be able to have more bodies already within King's Landing. Um, so Allison's there trying to continue the plot. Um, she gets caught, right? She gets caught in the middle, and oh man, what's his name? Like I have this guy's name here. Or Jasper, right? He's we new character we didn't meet in almost anywhere. Um, but let me tell you, um, Lord Jasper is the master of the laws, right? And he's trying to take advantage of Allison, right? And the maester Oli is able to help her, right? He right before he takes advantage of her, um, he walks into her room and pretty much saves her and get and tells the Kingsguard to arrest Lord Jasper. And that's where we find out that he's master of the law, right? And he'll be put in the dungeons as well. So yeah, yeah, right. Now obviously we have Sir Lormont, right? The idiot that locked Queen Rhaenyra in her room, not letting her go into the Battle of the Gullet. Um, this is a common theme. Remember, Tyrion didn't want Daenerys to end the battle, right? She had a dragon, and he told her, "Hey, look, it just takes one shot, and you're dead, and that's it. Your your conquest or is gone, right? You have no more." Um, so he gives up his. He's telling Rhaenyra, "Hey, um, I don't know what here. Here's my sword. And she's like, "Yo, what good is that gonna? And I'm gonna go in right now with Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra's performance was just so awesome, and I'm telling you, this is gonna be one of those things that if she gets an award, it's probably gonna be that scene that they're gonna put it into, um, because she comes down from her room, only to find out, that Jace is lying there, right? And she's talking to him like if he would be alive. What did you do? Why did you, talk to me? You know, and she can't. There's nobody she can be mad at. And you have in there her small council with Bela and Sir Lauren, who were responsible for what happened. Right? If Sir Lauren wouldn't lock the door on her, then maybe it would have been her, and all this could have been done with. But no, they locked her in in her room. Um, but yeah, she did a good performance. She tells them to not, Sir Lauren goes there to, why she's like trying to touch the body, and and holding it. She's the one that Sir Lauren is the one that tries to pull her, and she's like, "Yo, don't touch me!" Like all of you are are traded. I mean, have betrayed her, right? Because they all locked her they locked her in the room. So, uh, you know, as I told you, she goes to mourn Jace in her room when Damien's like telling her about the vision. So, um, you know, now she's at point, right? And Damon has her back, and Rhaenyra has determined. She tells the two of the council members, "Hey, look, I'm going to King's Landing," and they're like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't go. And, we can't be." And, Damon's like, "She says she's going." So end the story. She's going. She's flying over. She flies over and looks, and as she's flying over, she calls for her dragon. I think this is like the first time we've seen her fly her dragon since season one. When she goes from King's Landing as a teenager, from King's Landing to Dragonstone to stop the high towers, and the Kingsmen stop Damon, um, and to give the eggs, if you recall. Um, so I mean, this that's been that's the last time. So she gets her dragon, she flies her dragon, and as they pass by the Battle of the Gullet. So she's with four dragons on the way. She's with the two dragon seed riders, Damon and her dragon. So she so we get that picture of King's Landing. We get it there once they're there. As you can the city's scared. They're seeing four dragons. Not unaware of what's going on. Um, she lands right as expected. The greens lay their sword, and she's shocked by it. Damon's shocked by it, and so far the plan is working. How her and Alicent agreed to. They open the doors. They go into the throne room, and you know they're greeted, and Damon and Rhaenyra are greeted by some Kingsguard and some soldiers, and they're like, hey, mm, they're like, lay down your weapons, you're outnumbered, and Damon's like, no, well, you're gonna have to go through me, um, you know, and all of a sudden we hear some more people show up from the back of Rhaenyra, Rhaenyra and Damon, and it's the Golden Cloaks, right? The Golden Cloaks, the City Watch, and they're there to say, hey, we know where we stand, and where we stand is with with Damon, right? So the King's Guard and his other soldiers are are pretty much spared. You know, let me backtrack a little because there was a detail I forgot to mention. Yeah, before before the Gold Cloaks got there and Damon and Rhaenyra, Rhaenyra took her sword out, right? She took her sword out, and the men in front of her were laughing at her, right? They're like, "Oh, like like oh, what is she gonna do?" Like that cockiness of, "Oh my gosh, she got a sword in hand, and does she know how to use it or not?" So you know, uh, just to think about, they got four dragons outside, right? And you think that she won't be able to go ahead and fight for her to sit in that throne. Um so yeah, so Damon is going to the dungeon, and he's finding, he's freeing all the ones that said loyal to the blacks. And he finds Lord Jasper. But that's not the surprise there, right? He's like, hey, the one of the old mans that take care of the dungeon is like, hey, come here, I got something good for you, man. That that um the Laurie Strong left, the clubfoot dude. I'll get into him in a little bit. Like, come this way. I got something good for you. Right. And only to behold, like, Damon has like a smile from ear to ear, right? Like, he's like, I got this guy, right? And who do we have there, right? We have a conspirator to putting Am- Aegon in the iron chair, in the Iron Throne, right? Otto Hightower, right? So Otto Hightower is brought into, while Rhaenyra's greeting and and all the lords that stay loyal to her. She is brought by no. Behold, her is Otto Hightower. Hey, now Rhaenyra, but Rhaenyra is shocked to see this, and Otto is shocked. Like, he's there thinking that, okay, yeah, yeah, we're done. I mean, my family lost this war. Rhaenyra's gonna be sitting the throne, and you know, th- 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 that's it. Like, he pretty much doesn't know what's, that Amon, Amon and Aegon is still out there, right? His others, Darion is still out there as well, and his high towers are still waiting to attack to come to King's Landing. So he doesn't know any of that, right? Because he's been locked down in the dungeon, or at least we can. But to his surprise, it's that it's done. Like, all his family has been wiped out. Uh, so Damon tells Rhaenyra, "Hey, look, you have to, you have to, you have to kill this guy. You're gonna have to destroy this guy." And she, you know, he gives her the sword, right? In front of all the lords that were loyal to her. They are there looking at what she does. They pretty much like, when you're in high school, you wanna get in that wall to see to see what's gonna happen and not let security go in. Well, that's what's happening here, right? They're wanting to see what she does, right? Damon gives her the sword, and he's like, just be quick with it. I know I deserve this. This is gonna happen, and I was expecting this. Um, and he gets whacked. It doesn't go. She didn't hit the spot where she needed to. She hit him a little bit below his neckline, right? And so she takes another whack at it, right? Swings the sword, and poof, heads will roll. And when I say heads, they're gonna, meaning more than one head is gonna roll, right? Um, so the high tower gone in the games. And remember, you play to win. You play to win. As soon as that happens, Lord Jasper being there, uh, is trying to say his last words, and Damien doesn't want to hear it. Right? He gets cut. Okay, but now, like, they both get surprises, right? Like, Rhaenyra is getting her present of sitting in the Iron Throne. Um, and then Allison comes through, right? She wasn't able to get away from the city. They were able to locate her and bring her back into the room, the iron, the meet, you know before the Iron Throne, and and she finds her father there, right? And she finds Rhaenyra sitting in the Iron Throne, right? You know, when she was sat there, she was kind of sad and whatever. But as she sees Allison, right, it gives her more courage, and like she's she starts taking out her breath, her chest out a little more on the iron. Like, yeah, this is where I belong, and this is what happened. These are the consequences. But to Allison, that wasn't part of the deal. Remember, the deal was for Aegon to be the one beheaded, right? And Aegon is out there. He's still with the captures from the previous episode. So Aegon is there walking, traveling towards Dragonstone with the captures. Um, when only to find out that they've been ambushed by right. The Triarchy is fighting for the Greens, and so Loris is surprised by that. He didn't expect that to happen. As he's getting there, he's figuring out. Um, he kills one of his enemies with a used arrow on on a previous, and and he changes course of Strong's plans, and he's going to Rook's Rest, right? And you know he's considering to he's considering now what to do. Uh, like this wasn't part of the plan, right? Um, Now, there was I believe there was two or three battles. Now remember, I've read the book, so I have a picture of what's coming and what's not. Yeah. In the books, we don't know where Aegon Aegon is until the end of of the dances, like in a way, inside. Um, so we don't. So now we know that Aegon is traveling to Rook's Nest, maybe to try to get a hold of Cole and his host that he's hosting there. So, um, would he get reunited with his dragon? I mean, that's another question we have to think about. We're going to see that um, reunion happening in the season. Remember, Sunfire can fly, so he's still there. Um, and now who's gonna rule? Right? Is Rhaenyra gonna rule, or Daemon gonna rule? Right? What is Rhaenyra gonna do with Allison? Right? And Helena? What is she gonna do with them? Because um, basically, I understand Helena, not being able, not being the person that you give mercy to, but Allison was one of those people that conspired to put Aegon in the Iron Throne. Right, given the history that she knows, she should have put him. Um, she should have done the opposite and put Rhaenyra in the Iron Throne. But she was like a lead conspirator, right? Um, I mean, RIPs, man, my RIPs, Otto Hightower. I mean, short Lord Jasper, RIP, the Strong, the Strongs. I mean, we lost three Strongs, in this episode. What's gonna happen now with Amon with Alice? Remember all the crazy stuff that Alice did to Damon. Is now she gonna do the same thing to Amon? You know, um, again, and I'll tell you, do these two armies, are they gonna reach their destination? Does the Winter Wolves and with that army make it to King's Landing, as does Sir Kristen Cole make it to Harrenhal? We got to find out. We got to obviously find out. Now this is kind of this is one as I've been picking and thinking, like that thought of when of Damon learning about the death of Jace. What happens if Bela goes and in secret tells her father, Damon, hey, look, You know, uh, Reina is was the writer of Sheep Stealer. You know, does he hold that? You know, does he hold that and does he hold that secret? You know, and is the if Rhaenyra finds out about it, is she upset with Bela because she's been betrayed by her? And another thing, right? You know, um, supposedly part of the contract with Allison is that Aemon was gonna be in King's Landing and he's not, right? So what mercy, like I said, what mercy will she have with that person? Okay, what's gonna happen there? Who's gonna be the person that does that? Um, what's gonna happen? Fill in the blanks? Is peace gonna make in there? Oh man, like yo, like what a like people say I've heard comments and videos like is this 9 and 10 and now season 3 is gonna be the calmer. I mean, see, episode 3 of season 3 gonna be the nice introductions and all that of new characters. We didn't see Otto Hightower in this episode, so we still haven't seen who's the writer for that dragon that's out there in the high towers. Correct. We haven't seen who's the dragon rider for it. I think his name is Darion. So let's see. Uh, how is now Lord Corley is gonna rebuild his his voyages, his fleet, right? The sea snake as they call him. What's gonna happen to him? I mean, I eventually knew what's going to happen to him. I mean, like 2 3 days ago, I'm reading the books, rereading the books. So I recall, what happens to him. Um, you know, now, man, the ones I feel bad for it really is Bela and Reina, because they all want to help the queen, right? And you know, the queen might think Rhaenyra might think that she's been betrayed by them. If the secret goes against her. Um, what else? What else? I don't think I have much. I mean, man, what an episode! Let's bring it on. Uh, do you come for the dragon queen to die? You know, um, how is the city going to receive Rhaenyra? Biggest question: how is the city going to receive Rhaenyra as being the first woman to be in the Iron Throne, sitting down there? You know, um, hey, leave your comments, like and subscribe if you can. And thank you. If I left anything out, please put in the comments, and I'll try to be a little bit more detailed. Thank you.